Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to talk about saving money, this time with emergency communications gear. Now, all of us at one point or another have to rely on some sort of emergency information. I guess the classic example would be 9/11, although that's pretty unlikely to happen to any one of us. We certainly face other disasters in our lives. It may be a hurricane, or a flood, or earthquakes, or tornadoes, or more locally or likely, something as severe as a severe thunderstorm or an ice storm. Those are going to knock things out for us and put us in a position where we need information. Well, we also live in the information age, so we think, well, no problem, go to the computer. But don't forget, your computer relies on electricity and an internet connection. How about your smartphone? That runs on batteries, but those batteries only last a short time, and that relies on a cell connection, and those cell towers are very vulnerable. What about your TV? Well, if you're like most of us, you get cable TV. Cable TV relies on infrastructure and also requires electricity, so that may be out. So although all those are good sources in some times, they're certainly not good in all times. So we really need a perfect device, a device that can be developed that is simple to use, has low energy requirements, has many channels of information, and really doesn't rely on all this infrastructure like internet or power lines or cables or that sort of thing, and something they can get local and distant information. Well, we actually have something like that, and that was developed over 100 years ago, and that's the radio. And specifically, we need to have a portable radio for this sort of situation. The best radio would have its own power supply, typically batteries or other things. It would be simple to use, so we wouldn't have to read a manual in times of crisis. It would have an outboard or onboard speaker, so we didn't have to just have earbuds in our ears. We could use it while we're doing other things or have other people listen to it. It should have both AM and FM, and it should be inexpensive. Now, there are many different kinds of radios out there. Let me show you a couple. Here's a great radio. This is made by a company called Texan, but it's sold in the U.S. under the Grundig brand. It's a wonderful radio, gets great reception, but it's kind of pricey and might be a little intimidating to someone if they're not used to how to use it. There's other radios too. There's these really cool wind-up radios. This is a little generator that you wind up. This also runs on batteries. This one is also made by Texan, but sold in the U.S. under the Eaton or Grundig brand, and it's rebranded on other brands too. Its big feature is it runs on regular batteries or a rechargeable battery, which you charge with this crank, and it has a little flashlight. So this is a very cute device, kind of handy, but it's around $50, so it might be too pricey for some. Gets pretty decent reception, not as good as the last radio. With a radio like this, be cautious with the wind-ups. Don't buy one from a gas station or from a big box store that's an off-brand, because they're mostly junk. They're just there to take your money, and they don't work very well, and that crank will probably break off in the first use. There's other radios that are available, and you have to go retro. If you go back to the 50s or 60s, if you remember that far, you might remember the transistor radio. Of course, no one uses transistor radios now because we all have iPods and other such devices, but this is what they look like, and these are actually some modern ones which you can still get. Transistor radios are very cheap. They have all the requirements, and although they don't have phenomenal reception, they have good enough reception. This is one from Sangean. It's a very, very good radio, but it's kind of pricey, so we'll put that one down. And we're left with two other general categories. This is a no-name brand, which I picked up at Walgreens. This is a Sony, which I picked up at a Kmart. Both of these were, I think, definitely under $15, probably around $10. Clearly, the Sony is the better brand. So if you can find a brand name radio, like a Panasonic, Sony, or Radio Shack a transistor set or pocket set, that's going to give you better service than a no-name brand like Kobe or J-Win or whatever brand this is. But, you find what you can find. And the secret in using one of these radios is to realize that you need to make a kit. That kit looks like this. Take your radio. This is just an old school pencil box that we had lying around. I also have a little pen light battery in here. This one is an LED one, so it's not going to break. And some extra batteries. You put them in there, close up the lid. Now I'm set for an emergency. Now the things to remember is that if you have a kit like this, you should only use this for emergencies. So it's inexpensive enough that you don't need to use it for everyday stuff. If you want another radio, buy a different radio. But if this is out with the kids someplace or you've left it in the garage, guess what? You're not going to have it when you need it. So seal it up like this, put it someplace where you can get it, and only use it when that power's out or when you have to use it. Some of the things that you need to remember with this is that you want to make sure that it's for emergency use only, that you have those extra batteries, and I tend to leave a set of batteries in the radio because it's more convenient, but you definitely want to make sure that you turn the radio or the flashlight off, otherwise they're going to leak and make everything useless. You want to rotate the batteries yearly. Pick an anniversary, maybe your birthday or the first of the year or something. Take the old batteries out, all of them. They'll be perfectly fine to use in other devices. Put in fresh batteries, and you'll always have good batteries when you need them. And you always want to return the kit to its original state and place after use. And of course, not only should you know where it's at, but the other people around you should know where it's at. Now, I mentioned AM and FM, and the reason I think that both are important is simply stated. AM tends to be more news-oriented, and if you listen to an AM radio at night, you can actually, if you tune very carefully, get stations that are hundreds or maybe even 1,000 miles away. So it's going to be great even in a huge disaster. FM, there tends to be more local FM stations. It tends to sound a little bit better, and that's its big advantage, but it tends to be more music-oriented, and it has shorter range. Maybe that range is only a couple of miles to maybe 40 or 50 miles if you're looking at an FM superstation. So that's my little help there on what to do during times of a disaster. The nice thing about this kit is that you can also just throw it in your car if you're having to flee your home because of a flood or a fire or something like that. It's there to give you that information that is so vital and so comforting in times of emergency. So that's all for today. Have fun.